What's going on, everybody? Geek back here with a quick video on making your SSDs last longer, run a little bit faster, and be a little bit more efficient. This can be applied to both your traditional SSD SATA drive or your M.2 drives. People commonly think they're two different types of technology. M.2s are a different form factor. They're still solid state, and they do tend to be a little bit faster. Okay, a lot faster, but and there's a lot of hype of them for the Xbox and the PS5. I'm not going to be specifically talking about how to use those and manage those. This is specific to the PC and to Windows, all right? For those gamers out there. The first thing I want to touch on is a lot of times, and in the past, I've had people ask me, they went out and they got a terabyte hard drive, they partitioned it up or segmented that hard drive up into different sections, and they only gave themselves 150 gigs or so for the operating system. To this, I say, please don't do that. You want at least 250 gigs of space. And I'll explain later on in the video when I break down on my system how things are installed. Because your Windows system is going to take up anywhere from 60 to 100 gigs of hard drive space. And this doesn't include temp files, page file, or apps that you install in there as well. So it can quickly and easily overtake that 150 gigs. Several people, again, as I said before, have come to me. They wanted to know how to increase the partition size, which is a little bit more difficult because when you first get a drive, you can set it however big you want in the Windows Disk Manager. However, if you want to expand it, it doesn't let you do that. You do need to use some software. There's free software that will let you do that, but we're not going to talk about that here. It's just easier to get it right out of the gate. So what I recommend is a minimum for your OS drive is 250 gigs. Personally, I don't go any smaller than 500 gigs because it quickly fills up with different things depending on what your day-to-day activities are. If all you are doing is gaming and using the internet to check your email, 250 gigs is probably ample space. However, if you use your computer for not only gaming but for video creation, content editing, writing things, school work, maybe even doubling as your work computer if you're a consultant or a stay-at-home person, even schoolwork, the applications and everything that have to be installed that typically go to the OS are going to quickly fill up that hard drive space. So what I recommend is no less than 250 gigs, but I would go probably 500 gigs. Just my own 2 cents on that one. To each their own. Just per my personal experience, this is where it's at. The next thing I also want to touch upon here is when should you upgrade your hard drive or buy another hard drive to supplement your standard hard drive or your primary hard drive. With SSDs, when you get to around 70%, you will start to see a deterioration in performance and speeds, specifically for writing. And when you get closer to the 90% area, you're going to start seeing an overall performance hit, not only write, but also to read, because you're just running out of hard drive space. It doesn't know where to place everything. It doesn't know how to swap things. You're going to have, like if you have 16 gigs of RAM, there's a thing called page file sys that your system uses. So if you go use too much RAM, it uses some of your hard drive space, kind of like a virtual file, to bleed the non-essential stuff over from the RAM into, and it can cause sometimes get a little bit bigger or smaller. Just depends on how much RAM you have and what you're trying to do. So all that comes in. There's a lot more maths behind it, but I'll try to link some detailed information on it in the description below if you really want to dig into it. So my recommendation, just to recap, no smaller than 250 gigs for your OS drive. Recommend 500 gigs. Also, when you start getting to around 70% hard drive storage utilization, time to get a new hard drive or buy a new one to expand your current. You can either swap them or just get a second drive. That being said, let's also now talk about some of the things you do want to do and you don't want to do. So I use a Seagate hard drive that I got from Costco. It's an 8 terabyte external USB 3.0 drive that I offload things that I keep, like photos and completed videos that I'm not editing or anything like that, or movies that I've purchased, family photos, stuff like that. all goes out to my backup drive, okay? It also backs up to the cloud, so I'm good there. But the reason I do this is I want to keep as much data off of my OS as possible. One of the things that I know, there's two things that a lot of people do that they forget about, and it causes issues, is first, let's talk about the recycle bin. Now, I put some stuff in my recycle bin earlier just to test this all out. Once, because you delete a file, if you just click on a file and click delete, it doesn't make it go away, okay? So if you've purged some videos and you've been editing stuff, or you've downloaded a bunch of memes, or you've been working on, thumbnails and all this, you can collect quite a bit of data real quick that takes up a significant amount of space, right? So what you want to do is, once you have deleted these, all you gotta do is right click on your recycle bin and empty the recycle bin, all right? There's 86 items in there. It's like 5 gigs of data. Not a ton of data for someone like me, but if you're running low on space, this could be a big thing. So empty your recycle bin. Might take it a couple of seconds to do so. Depends what you've got in there and what you have accessing it. But that's the first thing you can do. The next is your downloads directory. These things I have seen get really big. So like you'll see here, NVIDIA released a new NVIDIA driver to help offset some issues that Cyberpunk's having. It is 640 KB. What does that mean to you? Because if people don't know how to translate it, that's 625 megs, okay? A little over half a gig. Not significantly, it's a decent sized file. So, but if you download those over and over and over again, and you don't clean up your download directory, and you download movies, you download applications, PDF stuff, schoolwork, all these different things, your download folder can actually fill up pretty quickly, and people forget to manage that. So that's why I say it's good to have a second drive, or like a USB drive you can go get from Costco or Sam's Club for 100 and 150 bucks. I'll put a link in the description below for some of the ones that I would recommend. Just move that stuff off your OS drive. Get it a little bit more freed up specifically for what you need and what you have that's important, okay? So those are the, to recap. Don't go any smaller than 250 gigs for your OS drive. Recommend 500 gigs. Make sure that you clean up your recycle bin and manage and maintain your downloads directory. All right. Let's now talk about some of the tools that come with Windows to help you manage all of this stuff. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to clean up the system. We're going to use Disk Cleanup. It's a free tool built into the system from Windows, right? Now, if depending on who you are, how many drives you have, I have multiple drives, right? Well, we're really specifically focusing right now on your OS drive, which is typically going to be your C drive. There are some people out there that put it elsewhere, but majority of the people, C drive. So you launch Disk Cleanup by clicking down here and on your start button and just type in disk, and you can select cleanup. It launches the Disk Cleanup, select the C drive, click OK. Now, right now, I'm going to show you only see one tab. There are 2 tabs actually. And before you can access them, you actually need to clean up system files by clicking on it, and then it's going to relaunch it. It's going to evaluate your C drive. Then what you'll see now is we have 2 tabs, a Disk Cleanup tab and a More Options, okay? This one right here is the System Restore and Shadow Copies. Now, these used to take up a lot of space, and the things have changed quite a bit. But if you're trying to clean up your system, and you want to be as efficient as possible, and you're trying to understand where all this is, you can come in here, run cleanup, and if you have several, it'll tell you right here, are you sure you want to delete all but the most recent restore point? This means you got to make sure that if you're going to run this, you're not going to be able to restore weeks in the past. This is just going to leave in place the most recent one, which is typically from your previous reboot, okay? So yeah, I'm going to say yes. This is going to clean it up. Now I'm going to go back to cleanup, the Disk Cleanup tab, and I'm going to do some things that I like to do. And this one here, chances are, if you've never run this before, your Windows Update cleanup is going to be several gigs. I run this, well, because I have Smart Storage Sense turned on. I don't have to worry about this as much. I will cover Storage Sense in just a second. Windows Update, I like to clean that up. Windows Defender Antivirus, leave that alone. You don't really have to do it. Downloaded program files. I do clean this up because programs will automatically update on their own if you tell them or let them, Or you might do a manual update, you get prompted for it and clean it. These files typically get stored there. Temporary internet files. I clean this one up all the time. I don't like leaving temp files running around. Windows error reports doesn't really take up too much space. The shader cache, if you're having graphic problems, you could clear out the shader cache if you want. Not something you have to do on a regular basis. Delivery optimization files, that's one I don't really mess with. It doesn't really get too big on a regular basis. Again, we talked about downloads. I manage that myself manually because I don't want my stuff to disappear. However, if you're prone to not care about it, you download it, use it once and forget about it, don't care anymore, you could tell it to clean up. Language resource files, unless you're in a bilingual family, don't really have to message. Recycle bin, temporary files, and thumbnails. I clean these up all the time. So you just make sure those are all check marked, and all you have to do is click on OK. Now it's going to delete these files. It's going to take it a couple seconds. Be patient. It's going to put those. Now, when you do the temporary files, when you go in, it's not going to clear out your saved passwords, but you will have to re-authenticate to any of those sites, okay? Because it's going to blow that stuff away. Just be warned on that one. All right. I think it works backwards too. You know, the last one on the list all the way up to the top. So keep that in mind as we're working through it. And it takes a couple seconds. I'd like to fast forward, but you know, hey. So again, the files that I recommended, the directories while it's doing that, is the Windows Update, Cleanup, Download Program Files, Temporary Internet Files. You can do device driver packages to clean those up so you only have the latest. The Recycle Bin, definitely the Recycle Bin. Temporary Files. Thumbnails, questionable, but the thumbnails I do know today have been, in some instances, have gotten to a point where they're rather large. So while it's just finishing that up, the next thing you can do is you can come in here and you can type in either system, or you can just, well, I'll show you how to click it for those who want to. You come here and you click on settings right here, right? And you're going to click on system, and you're going to come over here and you're going to click on storage. Now Windows and Windows 10 got smart to this idea. They know that people were getting tired of having to clean up their disk drive, and this is something that they were manually doing. So we have what's called Storage Sense. If it's not on, I highly recommend turning it on, okay? So you do that by coming to the settings. Let's just go back. We'll close this. You click on settings, system, storage, turn it on. Now, what you can do, and I'm going to, before I go through these, what this all means, configure storage. So this is where you're going to tell it what to clean up, how often to clean it up, and when. Okay, so run storage sense. I have it run every week. By default, you can do it daily, week, month, or during a low, when your hard drive gets full, if you only want it to run then. I tell mine to run every week, just because. Then, again, I want it to delete my temporary files for the apps that aren't using. I delete those every 30 days. I have specified never to delete my downloads directory, ever. Okay? I just don't want to mess with that. I want to be the one that manages that. I'll move that off to my external storage drives or whereas I need it. The OneDrive, if you use the OneDrive, that's up to you. I don't use OneDrive. I have it set to never. Now, once you have these set, you can tell it to clean up now, and essentially it's going to do what we just did with disk cleanup, just not, it doesn't cover everything that the disk cleanup tool uses. This case here, we're telling it to clean up the temporary files and a couple other things. So it's going to help manage things there. So that is one way to automate maintenance on your system. I believe the recycle bins is even in here too. Yeah, I think it covers the recycle bin. So, and if you're curious where Windows is going to tell you where's all your stuff being used, you can click on the show more categories, and we can drag this out a little bit, and you can see apps and system. Between these two here, I'm over 200 gigs used. That is primarily just on the C drive. I have 234 gigs of hard drive space used. Most of that is going to my OS into the applications that I have installed. Now, I do know 60 gigs of it is going to a game called Destiny 2. It doesn't break that down for you. Kind of does, kind of doesn't. But if you're wanting to see At a high level, what you can do is you can come into here, you can click on apps and features since it's the biggest one. You can come over and sort by size, and it's going to give you an idea of what's installed on your system, what's using the most space to their knowledge, and help you identify maybe what you need to troubleshoot or remove. And you do that in add and remove. I have a different tool I'm going to show you that makes it a little bit easier to identify. But again, as you can see, for those that are running, if I ran a 250 gig hard drive for my OS, I'd be pushing my limits right about here. And I run a pretty clean OS drive. The only thing on here that could make that smaller is when I do eventually uninstall Destiny 2 and move it to my gaming M.2 drive. But for now, I'm pretty close. So this is one of the ways you can come in and keep an eye on your SD drives. Again, make sure that you're cleaning up your downloads directory. Don't save everything to your desktop all the time. Empty out your recycle bin. If you can get a second drive and install your games and everything to it, that's what I would recommend. So you can see here on my system, I have a primary OS M.2 drive. It's 1 terabyte. And then I have a secondary 1 terabyte M.2 drive. That's my gaming drive. I haven't yet installed Destiny 2 to the second drive, but that's what I plan on doing, and that will free up quite a bit here, but I don't need to because I haven't partitioned it. SSD drives, unlike the platter drives, you don't need to partition unless you really want just to manage it on that micro level. They're just as efficient, just as fast. So I don't tend to partition up my drives that way. But so those are what I would do for your drives. Then the last thing, again, make sure it's turned on. Make sure you've got it, configured however you want to. The other thing you can go do is get this program right here called Windows Directory Statistics, right? Okay. I have it installed on my box already. The problem with this is it does a deep analysis of a specific hard drive. So this is going to take a second. So you launch it, you click on the drive that you want to have analyzed, and you click OK. Now it's going to do its thing. It's looking at file types, file sizes, directory structures, everything else. Now, I should have run this as an admin so I could manage files that I find from within the application instead of manually have to navigate to them. But I just wanted to show you this drive so you could understand the difference between using storage to identify games and everything that are installed on your box, because you can see here it doesn't show the game. Whereas on this one, if I break it down, you can now see programs. It's giving me a higher fidelity, a bigger breakdown, more specific granular look, right? I can see programs files. This is my biggest one with 88.8 gigs of stuff used. I can also see Steam. So if your games, you want to know how much space Steam is using, typically on the OS drive, this is like, why am I using 85 gigs for the Steam app on my C drive when all of a sudden I can come down, I can see, Steam apps. Okay, what is it? What do I have here that's taking up so much space? Looking common, I'm drilling down. Oh, look, it's Destiny. Destiny 2 is installed on the C drive, taking up 56.4 gigs of OS space. If I was to uninstall this and drop it over to my game drive, along with Trials of Mana and with Hades, I would free up, let's see, 60, 70, 80 gigs of data plus real quick, making that more efficient. Now I have a bigger OS drive, so I'm not, again, too concerned. But these are some of the things you can do. But as you're digging into it, you find files, you're just like, why is this taking up space that I don't need? Then you can also delete files from in here if you launch it as an admin. You can also see where your Windows, how much data it's taking up. The size gives you ability. Now, this is not something your regular inexperienced user would probably want to go do, but it does let you try to dig in and find where your files that are taking up the space are. If you run a clean drive, you run the disk cleanup, and then you turn on Storage Sense, let it do its weekly things, chances are you're not going to have too much of an issue. The other really cool thing about this program, after I expand it, it's got to re-render itself. I got to love that part. Is you will see their key right here tells you what is blocked. So you got PKG files, package files, but if you're interested, you could look at okay, I have BIC files or video files. You can sort and find those ones on here that are taking up the most of your information. What is it? Why am I seeing all these? So, your M4 drive or MP4s, I got 3 gigs of, almost 4 gigs of videos on my OS drive. Chances are those are educational ones that I've downloaded or videos that I'm actually working on, like this one right here. At approximately 20 minutes of filming, it's probably a little over a gig in size, I would guess. Maybe 2, because I recorded it 4K. But this gives you an idea. I'll put the link to this in the description below. Another video is a little over 20 minutes long. It's an instructional video. So if you've got questions, leave me in the comments below. I'm merely curious what drives you guys are using. I'm also very curious, again, as to what size of an OS driver you use and which ones have you used. For me, myself, and my personal experience, because I do know that my Windows, because I run Infinity, I run Adobe, I run gaming applications, not just Steam, not just Windows, Xbox, companion stuff, not just GOG, all that stuff, because I'm a gamer. I'm also running OBS, all these different things for my OS. The 250 gig partition just doesn't cut it for me. So I go with a 500. Well, I'm running a terabyte, but a 500 gig is where I would settle if I was most people. And then I would move things off. Okay. Just my word of advice on that one, my personal experience. Again, if your hard drive gets close to 70% full, it's time to get a second drive or to do some serious cleanup on your primary drive. Make sure that you can, the tools that you can use disk cleanup, which is built into Windows. You can run that for free. Again, it's just run in there, specify your drive, let it do its thing. You don't have to do the shadow copy every single time. You can just launch it, come in here, click on the files that you want to clean up, and let it run. You can also make sure that your recycle bin's empty, clean out the downloads directory, make sure you're not just putting stuff on your desktop. Everything to a backup drive that you don't use on a regular basis. Video editing and everything else, you want the fastest relays and interfacing, all that stuff with it and access. It's okay to leave on your primary drive and then move it off when you're not using it. Then you turn on Smart Storage Sense, let it run its management of your system, let it do its weekly or bi-monthly or monthly thing, whatever you want to set it at to help you manage everything and keep it efficient. Then if it all said and done, you're still not sure what's using it, go out, get Windows directory stats, let it help you navigate to the areas that are there. Get questions, hit me in comments below, hit me up on Twitter, or hit me up in the Discord. Again, I stream on Mondays and Wednesdays doing technical talk and then some gaming. On Fridays, we do a really cool podcast where we do game industry stuff, cybersecurity stuff, and technology. So love you guys. I'm sorry this took so long to get out. I'm sorry that's a little over 20 minutes. I just couldn't condense it all the way down because I wanted to be accurate and specific to the needs that were questioned. And until next time, I will see you guys in game or I will see you in chat. Just hit me up and let me know what you're after. I love you guys. Stay safe.